Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys have had a great Thursday and are having a fantastic evening so far. Got you a big update on this incoming snowstorm that's going to be cranking up, especially tomorrow afternoon and evening, but really overnight tomorrow night for your Friday night into Saturday morning and throughout the day Saturday for really a lot of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. There's a lot to discuss in this video, so I want to remind you guys this is probably going to be a longer video, but stick with me. I'm going to talk about every region possible, try to get as detailed as possible about individual cities and things like that. And I also want to remind you there is a severe weather part of this, and not just a small severe weather part of this too. There's going to be a significant tornado threat really late tomorrow evening into overnight tomorrow night also, when the snowstorm is going to be ramping up. And this is going to be including areas like the Panhandle of Florida, southern Georgia, even South Carolina, maybe even areas in North Carolina. We're going to talk about that towards the tail end of the video, but we're going to discuss that also. So stick with me. It's a dynamic system. There's a lot to talk about. It's going to impact millions of states, not millions of states, millions of people, and then over the course of several states. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It goes a long way. I appreciate you guys giving me basically a platform to talk about what I love, which is the weather. So I appreciate you guys so much. Hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's a great way to stay up to date with the latest and greatest information, as I can't make a video every single hour on YouTube. So it's a great way to stay up to date with information. If you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. It gives others an opportunity to do so too. And it's evident in the comments. We're all looking out for one another here, and I love to see it. We're a great family here, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. Let's get going here. We're going to look at the current hazards. Winter weather advisories are listed in this purplish color right here. Entire states have winter weather advisories. And really because, the South Central U.S., this isn't going to be a super significant event, but it's going to be that advisory level kind of winter weather event where you're going to have some light snowfall accumulations. In fact, Arkansas, it's kind of trended downwards as far as this being a big time impactful event. Same goes for Missouri, but you guys are certainly going to see accumulating snowfall. Now, winter storm watch is up for this teal color or this blue color. This extends all the way from the eastern half of Tennessee all the way up through eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, southeast Ohio. And speaking of those areas, I think that's who's going to get hit the hardest with the heaviest snow. I'm going to break that down here coming up. And then Pittsburgh, for example, winter storm watch, the interior Northeast winter storm watch is up. This is going to extend back and forth. This is also going to get upgraded to winter storm warnings. So over the next several hours, this is going to change a lot. Some of the people who are under winter weather advisories may get upgraded to a winter storm watch or a winter storm warning. We just have to see what happens. This really light blue over here, that's not for any kind of snowfall or anything. That's a freeze watch for the Midlands of South Carolina. Let's get going here. Severe weather is a big deal, especially late tomorrow night into overnight tomorrow night into Saturday morning. Enhanced risk, that is level 3 out of 5 in the severe weather category down here. And it's really because you have a 10% chance of a tornado 25 miles in any given location in the small section and far southern sections or southwest areas of Georgia, and then the Big Bend area and basically the Panhandle of Florida for certain sections. You got also a 5% risk that extends all the way up into Columbia. So the big risk with this is going to be tornadoes, but even bigger, damaging wind threat is going to become a big deal, especially as you're getting into Saturday morning. And in fact, you have that slight risk up for Saturday morning, and that is really because of a squall line that's going to move through these sections. I'm going to talk about that towards the tail end of the video. This really has a threat, guys, to bring some very strong winds for your Saturday morning across the Carolinas and southeast Georgia and even northern Florida here. So let's get going here and let's talk about the winter weather part of this, and then we'll talk about the severe weather part of this. What we're going to do, stick with me, guys. I'm going to break it all down for you guys. Go over the GFS, the Euro, and the NAM 3KM model. Then we're going to go to each region, the Southeast, and then the Northeast, and the Mid-Atlantic, and everywhere in between, portions of the Ohio Valley also, and break down several model runs that are showing different solutions for snowfall totals. And then at the end, I'm going to show you the National Weather Service, and we're going to take a look at all of them and compare as we're going and contrast as we're going. So let's get going here. This is the GFS, starting for tomorrow evening. I really think you guys are going to see a little bit of snow. That's obviously why you have winter weather advisories in areas of Kansas and Oklahoma City included, Dallas. I think you guys are just south of the advisory level. But there's going to be some snow flying around, especially tomorrow afternoon, evening for these areas of Texas, and then especially Oklahoma, where y'all think y'all could see a couple inches of snow. The low pressure really begins to develop into here. Therefore, Precipitation gets much heavier in Arkansas and maybe southeast Missouri. And then you got this band of snow stretching all the way from basically the southern Ohio Valley into central Ohio. Now, as you're going through in time, snow is already moving into areas like Memphis tomorrow evening. And we go to the next frame. This is getting into overnight, Friday into Saturday morning. Low pressure beginning to intensify, moving across areas of Alabama into North Georgia. But the cold air is linking up with this moisture, and with plenty of time, with plenty of moisture left, therefore you're switching to potential moderate to potential heavy snow in Memphis for a period of time. The whole entire northern half of Mississippi seeing some snow. Heck, even maybe the northern sections of Louisiana could see some back-end snow with this. It's still snowing in the eastern sections of Arkansas. And then look at all the heavy snow moving into the entire state of Kentucky. Heavy snow, moderate to heavy snow. I wouldn't say it's heavy at this point. Into Ohio, snow moving into Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Snow already moving into Buffalo overnight tomorrow night. And then we go to the next frame. And watch, you see the strength of this low pressure. The lower the number, the stronger the low pressure, just like in hurricane season. We go to the next frame, a 989 millibar low pressure. This is telling us this is a deepening low pressure. Pretty strong. Almost it's an inland cutter, but it's bombing out over land. I wouldn't say it's bombing out, but it's strengthening big time. So this is for Saturday morning around 6, 7, 8 a.m., give or take an hour. This is in 6-hour intervals. Heavy snow. Heavy. When I say heavy, I'm talking about heavy wet snow with breezy conditions also in eastern Tennessee, the southern Appalachian Mountains, also of North Carolina. Watch out. Northwest Georgia, maybe even Atlanta. Could y'all get a burst of some heavy snow at the end of this? We got to watch. But look at Northwest Georgia, for example. Y'all could end as a brief burst of maybe some heavy snow. Could it accumulate to the grassy surfaces? Absolutely. In fact, I do think there'll be winter weather advisories issued for these areas. Watch out, maybe even a winter storm warning for the far northwest counties of North Georgia. Don't want to talk too much on North Georgia too much, but Huntsville, Alabama. You guys, I really think y'all could at least see an inch of snow out of this. I definitely think it could happen. I know you're thinking, well, come on, Mitch, an inch of snow. Look at all the model guidance. Well, I think that's me being conservative because there's still some questions. But I call it a win if you get in North Alabama an inch of snow in mid-March. I mean, you got to call that a win. But Eastern Kentucky, check it out, jackpot area. West Virginia. I think far western counties of Virginia in general will see some snow. But this is when you watch here, southeast Ohio. It's snowing like crazy in interior New York State, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, for example, State College seeing heavy snow. You go to the next frame, we're getting into further in the day Saturday. I'm talking about midday. Will y'all switch to some snow for the areas of the Delmarva area, for Washington, D.C., for Maryland, all of Maryland? Do y'all switch to maybe a burst of some heavy snow here at the end? Maybe even eastern areas of Virginia. Do y'all switch to maybe some heavy snow right at the end where you stay rain the majority of the storm? We got to see. Check out New Jersey right here. Are you switching to some snow? I think it's definitely likely going to happen. Heavy snow to basically it's going to go to heavy rain, wind-driven heavy rain to maybe a wind-driven heavy snow, and it could accumulate quick. So this is getting into basically Saturday evening, and I think it'll be cold enough for any moisture left for almost the entire Northeast to be all snow. And I do think there'll be some lingering moisture. But look at right here in Northeast North Carolina. You're seeing snow flying around in Southeast Virginia also. That's something to watch. You got to watch the trends here. Maybe parts of North Carolina squeak out some flakes. So we got to see how this happens. We look at the Euro. It's kind of the same deal, but it's a lot more aggressive for areas of Mississippi, and it's been aggressive for this area for sure. But it wants to drop some moderate snow all the way into central Mississippi. You keep going here, same kind of deal. But look at this. You got a 999 millibar low pressure as we're getting into about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, riding over South Carolina. This is going to be bringing a lot of strong winds for South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina. Probably some kind of squall line moving through here with cold air quickly moving in behind it. But this is a heavy band of moderate to heavy snow from Mississippi through northern Alabama, through Tennessee, Kentucky, all the way to southeast Ohio. In the middle of the night here in the wee hours of the morning Saturday through Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, up to Buffalo, the interior Northeast. And we're switching into basically more into Saturday morning, heavier snow moving into eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky. But look at northwest Georgia, heavier snow. It's switching to heavier snow. Now you got the GFS and the European agreeing with the idea of heavier snow in northwest Georgia. It's crazy to see, but it's looking likely that Georgia's going to get into some fun here. If you're a winter weather fan, you call that fun. But it's really starting to look likely that the far northwest area of Georgia could see winter weather advisory snow, maybe an inch or two in those higher elevations. But look in northern Alabama at this time frame. The entire basically northern half of Alabama switching to basically moderate snow, maybe heavy snow at times. So that would accumulate. It doesn't matter how warm it's been. Look up here in the interior northeast, Pittsburgh, a band of heavier to moderate snow. But look at this. You start to get through here in time, and I'll go all the way out to about midday Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, give or take an hour. Back end snow still moving into eastern Tennessee and eastern Kentucky, western Virginia, West Virginia in general. But look at this. It wants to switch on the Euro quickly, much more quickly, to all heavy snow from rain on the Euro. And it's been showing that the entire time. The Euro has stuck to its guns for this switching into not a substantial necessarily, but a quick hitting, probably heavy accumulating snow for the Delmarva area, Washington, D.C., Boston. I always want to call Baltimore, Boston. Baltimore, maybe into Philadelphia. You're going to, in Philadelphia, sometime during the day, probably Saturday morning, late morning into Saturday afternoon, you're going to switch from heavy rain, moderate to heavy rain, to probably moderate to heavy snow, and it's going to accumulate, I really think, for a few hours. How much snow do you get? Well, I'm going to show you the snowfall accumulation map here in a second, but we keep going here in time, and what I'm impressed with is look at the snow. You got snow breaking out, rain changing to snow even outside the mountains of North Carolina in these northern counties. Watch out here. You could definitely see some snow. It's just something to watch for sure. Delaware, snow. You're switching to snow. The entire Delmarva area switching to snow. You keep this going. And this is getting into Saturday afternoon. New York City, Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, interior northeast. This is when this low pressure could really crank up and really intensify the moisture for the Northeast. I mean, it's snowing like crazy from Washington, D.C. all the way up to New York City. And then it starts snowing like crazy in areas like Boston and southern New England as you're getting into Saturday evening per the latest Euro. So it's a very impressive run. So let's look at the NAM. This is a short range kind of convective model. Going through in time, we're starting to get into midday tomorrow. Bands of light wintry precipitation moving through Oklahoma. Yes, that doesn't look that impressive, but I think the moisture will look more amped up than this. I really do. But this little band of snow showing up for areas of southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. But this is when the moisture begins to intensify. We're starting to get into the evening hours of Friday. I really think you'll quickly probably switch to a 1 to 2 hour period of some snow in Dallas, Fort Worth. I think it's definitely and certainly possible and probably likely. As we're getting into the later evening hours, this is when any rain switches to snow for areas like Memphis, Tennessee. Low pressure really begins to develop. Heavier moisture returns begin to really pump out. And you can't forget to mention the heavier rain, even on the rain side, moving through the Carolinas, Georgia, and the squall line beginning to develop south of this low pressure. I'll stop it here. This is for 2 a.m. Saturday morning in the middle of the night tomorrow night. This is the line of basically the rain and snow line moving into northwest Alabama. It is snowing like crazy in the backside of this event of this moisture here in Mississippi. The entire northern half of Mississippi experiencing moderate to heavy snow. The entire central to western part of Tennessee experiencing moderate to heavy snow. Heavy snow moving into Kentucky. Same thing for Ohio, and it's starting to move into western sections of Pennsylvania here. We keep this going through in time, and this is when enough cold air chases up for the moisture for basically the entire northern half of Alabama. And right here, you see these dark blues. You almost see these pinks. That is very heavy snow showing up per the latest NAM. For the western slopes of these mountains, I think the plateau of Tennessee is really going to get several inches of snow. Even the southern plateau of Tennessee, maybe extending into the northern counties of Alabama, I think could see 2 to 4, 3, maybe 5, 2 to 3, 4. That don't make any sense. 2 to 4 inches of snow. Someone's going to get half a foot of snow easily, I think, on the plateau of Tennessee. I really think. The valleys, you guys are going to see accumulating snow. I really think you are. So stick with me with that. I really think y'all are. Areas like Chattanooga, I think y'all are going to score maybe an inch or two of snow. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know, a lot of times it's really hard to forecast that area, but I'm pulling for you guys strongly. I really am. But heavy snow in West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, like I said, jackpot right in here. Even southeast Ohio, snowing like crazy in areas like Pittsburgh, even central Pennsylvania getting hit hard. But, you know, the NAM wants this to be just a wind-driven rain, and then at the very end, it switches y'all to rain to snow for even areas like central Virginia. Maryland switches to snow as we're getting into the afternoon hours of Saturday. You're switching to snow for New Jersey. Delmarva area seeing snow. Eastern Pennsylvania seeing snow. It's snowing in the interior northeast, but it begins to switch later in the afternoon for New York City, Long Island. It's basically switches from west to east. So obviously the cold air is coming in from the west, so obviously that makes sense. But I think Boston, unless this low pressure really intensifies and kind of dumps a brief burst of a few hours of heavy snow, I don't think areas like Boston is going to see a ton of snow, but I think it's possible to see accumulating snow for sure. So 16 minutes in, and now we're just talking snowfall accumulation. So hopefully you guys have stayed tuned or skipped ahead, whatever y'all have done. I'm cool with it. I'm just happy you guys are watching my content and really appreciative of it. So GFS, we're going to look at the GFS first. I mean, we got a much closer look here. GFS likes the idea of anywhere from 2 to 6 inches of snow in central to northern Arkansas. It likes the idea of 2 to 4 inches of snow from central Missouri all the way to the southern parts of Missouri. The entire state of Tennessee from the GFS. Anywhere from 3 to 4 inches of snow in Memphis to 4 to 5 inches of snow in Nashville. Huntsville, Alabama, GFS wants to dump 2 to 3 to 4 inches of snow on you guys. The northern counties of Mississippi, northern Mississippi in general, 2 to 3, 4 inches of snow from the GFS. That's what the GFS is showing. You look at the plateau, you see this finger of heavy snow showing up here. This is what I'm telling you. I think over a half a foot of snow is going to fall. Of heavy mid-March snow is going to fall. But look at eastern Kentucky. Someone in eastern Kentucky, I think, is going to see a foot of snow. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think someone's going to see it. The western slopes of the Appalachian Mountains going to see snow. Watch out for the eastern slopes. Eastern slopes meaning Asheville, Boone, places like that. If the low pressure continues to trend southeast or east in general over the next 24 hours, areas like the eastern slopes like Asheville, Cherokee, could really start to get in the mix. Boone, Beach Mountain could start to get in the mix with a little bit more snow. But for right now, this is really a western slopes event. And then obviously the western higher elevations of Virginia is going to get hit hard. And I think the entire state of Virginia, of West Virginia, has a chance to see 4 inches of snow or higher. I really do. Let's go on and switch to another model and see what it does. Let's look at the European model. What does the European model show? Well, it's definitely not as eye-popping, right? It doesn't like the idea of what the GFS is showing, but it does like the idea of snow deep into Mississippi and Alabama. I think the European is underdone. In fact, it's showing even less snow than something like the National Weather Service is showing. But it does like the idea of the entire state of Arkansas seeing a couple inches of snow. 1 to 2 inches of snow showing up in Memphis. Nashville, it's only showing about 2 to 3 inches of snow. But as you can tell, you get the idea. Figure out your state, see what it's showing. And I'm not trying to be rude, guys. I'm not. I just don't want to be repetitive with saying each region. But you can tell, obviously, the Euro's not showing near as much snow. We jump over. Let's take a look at the NAM, right? The 3km NAM. NAM tends to get a little crazy. But I'm telling you, I think somewhere, you see how it's showing almost over 8 inches of snow in northern Alabama? Heck, I think someone in northern Alabama, maybe in Huntsville, I think someone in northern Alabama sees 4 to 5 inches of snow. I do. I'm gonna shoot for that, and I'm gonna eat crow if it doesn't happen. That's cool, but I'll be excited to see that first 4-inch total somewhere in northern Alabama. We'll see how that goes. But this is what I'm talking about. That northwest area of Georgia, somewhere in far northwest Georgia, is going to see probably winter storm warning criteria snow. I really think so. Maybe a couple inches. I really think it's possible. The entire northern Mississippi area, I think, is going to see a lot of snow tomorrow night. I really do. The NAM wants to give areas of Memphis, Tennessee, where I really think the snow begins to really crank up, a couple inches of snow. But as you can tell, the entire state almost of Arkansas in winter weather advisories, and for a reason, because I just don't think that the heavy snow really gets cranking up in this area until you get further east. But the plateau of Tennessee, the NAM, really hits y'all hard with several inches of snow. Gatlinburg, if you want to go to the mountains, hit up Gatlinburg. If you want to go somewhere in the mountains and see snow is what I'm saying, go to Gatlinburg. I think that would be a great area. 4 to 5, 6 inches of snow, I think maybe in Gatlinburg is certainly possible. West Virginia, the entire state, unless maybe far southeast areas of the county, I really think it's going to see any 4 inches of snow or higher, the entire state. I really think it's possible. Eastern Kentucky, and for my folks in the Northeast, I'm going to talk about you too. So if you're wondering when you're going to talk about the Northeast, I'm about to. But in general, Southeast Ohio, I really think sees 4, 5, 6 inches of snow. It just depends on where you are and where the heaviest band sets up. I think there's going to be a heavy band that sets up right into here. I really think it is, even extending into Tennessee. Someone's going to see a heavy band of snow right into here. I really think so. So let's look at the latest. Let's look at the latest long range, and I'm going to have to adjust this over here. Look at the latest long range HRRR model. Go all the way to 48 hours out. I think the HRRR model is looking pretty solid. I like the idea of what it's showing. Do I think there's going to be some more higher snowfall totals maybe showing up in areas of Tennessee? I do. I think it's going to verify a little bit higher. But in general, I like what the HRRR model is showing. I think there's going to be more snow in eastern Kentucky than this, but this is what the HRRR model is showing. Like I said, in general, the entire state of Tennessee seeing accumulating snow. Northern Alabama, northern Mississippi accumulating snow. And I really think it's going to happen here. One last thing we'll look at the National Weather Service. What do they show? Well, they're starting to lose that idea of a conservative outlook. I know a lot of people hound the National Weather Service, but guys, you got to realize that these guys aren't going to jump on the first crazy snowfall solution that they see. They're going to be professional about it and probably start low and then climb as their confidence gets higher with these heavier snowfall accumulations showing up with some of these crazier models that sometimes end up verifying. A lot of times they do. But in general, the National Weather Service, the professionals, likes the idea of maybe around 1 inch of snow in Memphis. The idea of, anywhere from 1 inch to 4 inches of snow, just depending on where you are in Arkansas and in Missouri. But the plateau of Tennessee, as far as the state of Tennessee, is favored here with anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow possible. But look at the valleys. Snowfall beginning to increase for the Valley of Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee. We're from maybe 1 to 3 inches. Chattanooga, they're saying maybe right at 1 inch of snow, which is right around where I'm shooting at for that region. But there's some snowfall accumulation showing up for northwest Georgia also. But look at northern Alabama, 1 to 2 inches of snow starting to look up here. And then obviously eastern half of Kentucky, I think a widespread over half a foot snowfall totals are possible. Southeast and eastern Ohio, getting up to Pittsburgh, where I think Pittsburgh will see over a half a foot of snow, is almost not certain, but it's likely at this point. West Virginia, a lot of snow. Let's go on and switch up to the Northeast. This is the GFS, same kind of deal. We're going to go through each one of those models I just showed. The interior Northeast, New York, interior New York, Buffalo. I think Buffalo will flirt with 4 to 6 inches of snow, maybe more. But you get a little bit further east, I think interior New York State will see several inches of snow. Over a foot is possible. This is when you start to get over the foot category as far as how much snow is going to fall on average in more areas, as opposed to maybe down there in West Virginia, eastern Kentucky. But I really think northern sections of Vermont, New Hampshire, over a foot of snow could definitely fall in these regions. But check out Pittsburgh. I think maybe a heavier band. Get a deep breath, guys. I'm almost through with this. A heavier band sets up over Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Several inches is possible there. But you start to look at the GFS for the interior, for the coastal areas of the Northeast. It doesn't like the idea of you guys seeing much snow at all. So take this with a grain of salt, but the GFS does not like y'all seeing. It basically is showing you the idea that this is going to be mostly rain with a quick transition to maybe a heavy thumping of snow, but it's not going to snow long enough for it to really accumulate. But there's certain areas that show a half an inch to 1 inch of snow, but it's not liking the idea of the coastal regions like Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York City, up to Boston. Not saying Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. is along the coast, but you get what I'm saying. The I-95 corridor, seeing a lot of snow. But you look at the European, it's a little bit different, right? So it doesn't show the crazy snowfall totals up here like the GFS does. But the GFS, I think, is absolutely going to be right with the interior New York snow showing up here, where you're going to get widespread foot snowfall totals. I also don't know what the heck the GFS is doing with this little weird dry slot here, so just ignore that. But I meant the European. The European, I don't like what it's doing here at all. But the big difference here is look at the Euro and European and northern VA. You got accumulating snow showing up. The Delmarva area, accumulating snow. Delaware, snow showing up. The entire state of Maryland, almost, snow showing up here. almost the entire state of New Jersey with snow. Long Island accumulating snow just a couple inches. But New York City would see 1 to 3 inches with something like if the European was to happen. And it even gets into southern New England, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. Throws y'all a bone, gives y'all a few inches of snow. So the European is much different along that I-95 corridor than the GFS is. Now, we look at something like 3KM NAM. What does it show? It's kind of right in the middle, but it really likes the idea of pockets of really heavier snow. But it shows more snow in the I-95 corridor than maybe something like the GFS does for sure. But you get the idea. I like what the NAM's showing with these pockets of heavier snow in Pennsylvania and New York. I think you could shift this a little bit further west, maybe in Pennsylvania. But the NAM is showing the idea of elevation dependent, where higher snowfall can fall on higher elevations is what I'm trying to say. But, it's going to be tricky in these areas right in here from Washington, D.C. up through the Delmarva area, the New Jersey area, Long Island, southern New England. I think you could get anywhere from 1 inch to maybe jackpot. Someone could get 5 inches of snow. It just depends on if something like the European ends up coming to friction here. You look at the HRRR model. We'll have to switch to the long range here, and we'll get what this is showing. It only goes out to 48 hours, so it's probably still snowing. But the HRRR model, and it's still snowing, look at this. It's bringing some heavier snow pretty close to New York City. A few inches, heavier snow for mid-March standards is what I'm trying to say. Accumulating snow. You got 2 inches of snow almost showing up in Washington, D.C. The northern sections of Virginia, accumulating snow showing up from the HRRR model. The entire state of Pittsburgh, widespread over 4 to 5 inches totals. And then those pockets of heavier snow in the interior northeast where you could see isolated 6 to 12 inches of snowfall totals, and just a nice snowfall in general. But if you were to keep this going, it would probably bring more snow all the way into Boston. So this likes the idea. So I think as far as, and let's look at the National Weather Service before I speak on this. I think the National Weather Service is actually leaning more towards maybe the GFS as far as it being lower snowfall totals along the I-95 corridor. What do I think? I think you can blend them all together. But the thing that kind of sucks about the people who want snow along the I-95 corridor is really it's going to be a quick changeover. You're not going to have a long period of heavier snow, I don't think, from Washington, D.C. to New York City to Boston. So if you can get a longer period of heavier snow, I think it's going to snow heavy. But how long is it going to snow? That's a big deal. That's the big question is what I'm trying to say. But, the National Weather Service is going ham pretty much on the interior sections of the Northeast. And even Pittsburgh showing over a half a foot snowfall totals for this region. So they're pretty confident that this is going to happen for this region for sure. Chances to see over an inch of snow as we're kind of branch away from the snowfall totals. It's pretty much over 50% for the entire state of Tennessee. It has dropped off for the western part of Tennessee. Basically the whole entire northern half of Arkansas, widespread over 50% chance to see an inch of snow, but obviously the jackpot areas in here. But look at this area in Virginia. It's starting to creep a little more south. Washington, D.C., the European, the EPS ensembles wants to give y'all a 80 to 90% chance to see an inch of snow, and including all the other big cities along this stretch between Washington, D.C. and New York City. So it's something to watch here. You look up here in New England at the same thing, and the European ensembles likes the idea of seeing accumulating snow, let's just say that, along that I-95 corridor, and it's pretty much a lock, obviously, for the interior northeast. So one thing we can mention here is the cold temperatures coming behind this. Right, this is for Friday evening. Cold front moves through. It's going to be incredible watching how the temperatures drop throughout the day for the Carolinas. You're going to wake up probably in the 60s for a lot of folks in the Carolinas, especially Central Carolinas points east. And then the cold front's going to move through, and by the time you go out for any Friday, for any Saturday night activities, it's going to be in the 40s and 30s, and temperatures are going to drop like a rock. So I'll stop this for Saturday morning. You got below 0 degree temperatures in Missouri. You got widespread teens showing up in Tennessee. Very cold temperatures here in the South. High temperatures potentially for Saturday. The GFS wants to say the entire state of Tennessee is below freezing, and then everybody points north is below freezing. Even areas of northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and northwest GFS stay below freezing on March 12th for your Saturday. totally opposite from last Saturday, right? And then look at the low temperatures for Sunday morning. Well, the snowpack on the ground for these areas, record-breaking cold temperatures, single digits for these areas showing up here where the heaviest snowfall could fall, where I've been talking about the entire video. But look at the freezing line going all the way into North Georgia. Hard freeze for everybody in the southeast. It's really going to be impressive cold air for this time of the year. So really briefly talk about the severe storms as we've passed the 30-minute mark of this video. Going through here, I think tomorrow afternoon, we start to see widespread coverage of showers and storms. But then as we're really getting into the overnight hours, I really don't even think the severe weather threat is going to be that bad tomorrow afternoon and evening. I think it's over in the overnight hours when this low pressure really begins to whip to the north of these areas that are under the severe weather hazard right here. This is when you watch out for these storms right in here. Any of them could produce damaging winds. They could produce, and this is 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. Any of them can produce damaging winds for South Carolina, North Carolina, really especially here in Georgia. And watch out the panhandle of Florida. And then you're getting going here in time, and you're getting into maybe the, probably as the sun's coming up, watch out for this line of storm stretching from the Carolinas that moves eastward throughout the Carolinas. And then look at the squall line that moves through Florida. This will be an intense line of storms. Damaging wind threat, big here. But there is a significant tornado threat. And look at the NAM. The NAM really shows it here. We're getting into tomorrow evening for your evening activities. Is going to be an absolute washout. Obviously, it's going to be snowing for certain areas like Memphis, Tennessee. But for the southeast, it's going to be warm and muggy, and it's going to be raining like crazy ahead of this cold front. But as we're getting into the overnight hours, check out these little individual storms showing up in southwest Georgia, the panhandle of Florida. Guys, this is really where you can have this severe weather right into here. So be careful, because this is when the severe weather can really ramp up in the overnight hours. Really the only thing lacking in this setup for this to be a much more substantial severe weather threat is the fact that it's overnight and you're lacking CAPE, which is that juice you need. Look at the snow. I can't help but to keep talking about the snow. Snow extending almost all the way down to Montgomery, Alabama, as you're waking up about 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. But look at this line of storms moving through southeast Georgia, the Carolinas. Look at this bowing segment of the storm from the NAM for 8 a.m. Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte. You guys could be really woken up by a nasty line of storms with a cold front pushing through that really could just cause some damaging winds. But there's a tornado threat too. But as you're getting into Saturday morning, this is when you really have a substantial damaging wind threat with this line of storms. The NAM really shows it a lot better than the HRRR model. So you can see there's a wind threat with this too. Gusty winds are certainly possible as this low pressure really gets kicked up. You got 30 to 40 mile per hour winds whipping through Alabama, Georgia, as you're getting into your Saturday morning when there's in response to this low pressure. And you got high winds showing up in the mountains of North Carolina especially. And then I think this will continue up to the northeast. Thank y'all for tuning in. For the folks who lasted all 33 minutes of this video, God bless you. I really appreciate you, but I don't blame anybody for not wanting to watch 33 minutes of a weather video. I think I definitely probably make some of the longest videos out there, but I get to going and I don't realize how much time's went by. But God bless everybody. I appreciate y'all tuning in. The video will be a little bit shorter tomorrow morning, but I'll have you another update. God bless all y'all. Stay safe, and talk to y'all soon.